Good evening, everybody at home, and welcome to the February 6th meeting of the Dairy Conservation Commission. This will be the first meeting of the year, which will be exciting for us due to some holidays and transition. Before we start tonight's meeting, I'll ask that we all silence our cell phones, both on the board and in the audience. And I will start the meeting by asking all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. In case of emergency this evening, please do not use the elevators. There's stairs behind you as well, an emergency exit up to the front. If you need help, a commissioner can assist you. I ask, we already did silence all cell phones, so we'll start with an introduction of commission members starting to my left this evening.
Eileen Chabot, good evening.
Bob Spurl.
Rick Bazanga.
Grace Reisdorf.
Bob Lundstrom, good evening.
Fantastic. And as sitting members, we are good. We do not need to have anybody sit this evening, so that is fantastic. Our first order of business has been passed around. It's the approval of minutes from 12/12/2022. Yes, it's been that long.
I'll motion to approve.
One correction, and I think there's another as well. In the Exit 4A section at the bottom of page 2, it refers to Hornbrook, and I believe we call it Shieldsbrook. So.
Okay, give me one moment to address that correction. Shieldsbrook. Hearing one amendment. Do we have any others?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the minutes say that our meetings are moved to the first and second Monday. I believe it's the first and third Monday.
You got it. Again, just keeping you guys on your toes, just so we're clear. Okay, so Rick.
I'll motion to approve with the two amendments.
Rick motions with amendments. Do we have a second?
Second.
Grace Reisdorf with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains.
Abstain.
For the record, Bob Spurl and Eileen Chabot abstain. All right, folks. Moving into correspondence. We received a lovely updated copy of the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission's handbook, which was newly revised 2021. We did order a couple of these, but this one came to us as we filled out our paperwork and did our dues for the year. One of the things on here that it said that they included another sheet to update our information, but that was not in here. So I will check with them and find out what they meant by that. Maybe it's just online. The first person who would like to review this, though, Mr. Lowenthal came with an early request, so he is going to take this handbook, but I will pass it around if someone wants to review it this evening, and it will go with Will at the end of the meeting. Second piece of correspondence comes from Apex. We receive this, I believe, twice a year. This is a report for the Walmart facility, and it's about the drainage conditions, and everything appears to be operating as designed. There was no issues notated within anything on the drainage plan for that parcel. Again, this is for the final report for 2022. I can pass that around if there is interest in that as well. Next piece of correspondence is from Southeast Land Trust. This is a report from Jennifer Dickinson, our seasonal land steward. The 2022 reports for Ferdinando and Gunther Nelson. Our new contact is Amanda Elms, ELLMS, formerly Amanda Hollenbeck. So congrats to Amanda. Most of the reporting that was signed off included some aerial imagery, which is pretty standard practice for some of their stuff, and then there is some comments built out. So I'll pass these around if anybody would like to go ahead and take a look at these reports as well. I have not had a chance to fully comb through them, but definitely something I need to do within the next day or so and provide some feedback and action plans. So I'll pass those down as well. Moving into correspondence, this is from New Hampshire DES. Their following two notices are for 74 Rockingham Road in Derry, tax map 5, lot 39. These are dated January 4th. It is for a dredge and fill of 1,656 square feet within a palestrine forested wetlands and 547 square feet of impact within an intermittent stream, which is technically listed as a Tier 1, impacting 48 linear feet. This particular notice from DES did include project-specific site conditions to be met, a total of 12, with 2 additional for monitoring, and then general conditions, a total of 10. The contact for this one is Seta Detzel, and there will be, it was a question that was asked about monitoring for this project in conjunction with these conditions, and there will be planned follow-up on that at our next meeting. I think that was a good question, so we'll find out who the monitoring agent is for that project.
Yeah, it does say the permit's not valid until the construction monitoring plan has been prepared.
Yep.
So that's good.
Next notice from DES, this is a duplicate. This is for from January 10th. This is to the town of Derry. This is for the project at Franklin Street. This was the replacement of the culvert over Horn Brook, which is where we flubbed our brooks before. This is for tax map 31. No lot available as the work is done within the street area. And this is a permit marking as complete and approved. So that's that for correspondence. Okay. So our main function of business tonight, as we hit 7:07, in quite the expeditious meeting this evening, but the first of the year, and quite an important one at that. We have a responsibility as a commission to report to our town council kind of 2002 in summary, where we were at with certain things and where we're at as a commission, goals and things that we have. That will be done tomorrow night. So tune in for some hot button topics being shared. We'll certainly do as best a job as we can. But in years past, we've kind of set off our first meeting of the year to really talk about goals that we have as a commission that would run the course of the year. And I think what we found is, one, I don't pass the baton too many times. That's a curse of my own, project management-oriented type of status. And so we typically sit here for a year and we come up with an entire list and we say, we want to do all of these things this year. And we get about a quarter of them completed, and out of those quarter, we get them done about 80%. So in lieu of having a larger discussion this evening and building a list of wants and needs for the future, I think we do have a long list of wants and needs, but maybe perhaps approaching this more on a quarter-by-quarter basis. So we have a much shorter runway of really specific goals that we want to get done, and thinking about how we want to approach them in Q1, and then from Q1, we'll do a report, where are we at health-wise, what have we done, did we assess those goals, did we get them done correctly, and then moving on to quarter 2, and so on. So just want to float a couple of ideas and then open up discussion for the rest of the board as we go through, giving some feedback on stuff that we've talked about in the past that we still want to bring forward as an action item, and things that obviously are important to all in terms of, property health, education, things like that. So when I think of quarter 1 for this year coming into spring, there's a couple of things that I think really have been of public requests that we haven't completed that I'd like to put on for Q1 for spring. One of them is to work with our public works team to address the signage at Broadview regarding dog fouling, making sure we have that consistent signage put up there. That should be a very easy request to get that done. We also do have a new sign regarding the hours at Broadview that's much cleaner than the one that currently has some stickers and a hole in it and some others. So that'll be part of that refresh. The second thing that comes to mind in close proximity is the Shepherd parcel. And recently, as our last meeting, we had some feedback that the trail work from that front Shepherd parcel down to the picnic area really isn't clear. The original trail's been overgrown, and it is an addressable need. We've spent some time cleaning up that picnic area in years past, and I think to get the most use out of that property, we really need to reestablish that trail. And CELT has communicated that if we are going to do that work, that they need to be notified and understand when we're going to do it, just because of the monitoring and to make sure that things aren't done. But as we come out of winter and we don't have that spring growth yet, I think it's going to give us the best sight line to get out there and to kind of reestablish that trail. So I would like that as a Q1 initiative.
Are you talking about
I'm sorry, are you talking about the trail that goes from Pond Road to the picnic area, or talking about from the picnic area beyond, to interconnect with the rest of the parcel?
Yeah, we're talking Pond Road back up to Shepherd at the top of the hill.
The whole thing?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you look at older maps that reference when we kind of got that property underway and put those two things together, there was a footpath that went from Shepherd very cleanly to the picnic area.
Right.
As you know, on Pond Road, parking right there is a challenge. We've seen that. So really, it's advantageous to use some of the parking up by Shepherd to kind of walk down there. Now, in years past, we've taken, Rick and Will and myself have walked the kind of Stonewall border down, but it's rough terrain. It's not for everybody, right? When I think of a picnic area, we want it to be accessible by folks with young kids, folks with potentially some challenges. So we need to have a little bit of a wider space, something more passable. And it's high time, right? It's a good parcel. It should be easy to reestablish the trail. I say easy, but it will take physical labor to reestablish it.
Yeah, and you can find any invasives a lot easier too, I think, before leaf out, before the leaves come back, and
Yep.
you can get at stuff a lot easier right now.
And the other thing that comes to mind, and it's really, again, thinking just Q1, and then I'd like to open up to some discussion. Just for the public, we had Jeannie Cunningham join us at 7:12 p.m. Bob Boonstra had asked in the past about unifying our website design, and we talked about setting a meeting with Sheila to make sure we can get all of our parcels kind of cleanly put in there. And that's going to be a Q1 initiative that I'm going to ask Bob to lead.
Happy to,
Happy to? I got a happy to. See that?
with an introduction.
So here's what we're going to do. So we will communicate that. We'll facilitate that introduction this evening, make sure we set some time this week. We'll get it out there calendarized to make sure we have that conversation and then get the end state of what we hope those 2 pages to look like together. And let's get that done in Q1. And the last thing I'm going to put on the list, so I'm going to put 4 items on the list. And I'll give you a pick 'em. We need to do 2 things. One, I think we need to have the meeting with TRC and, have a workshop with them, not a formalized meeting, but a workshop where we can come together and talk about things that we've talked about in the past, just, things that we'd like to see on plans, get their feedback on process and other things. And so ask George and Liz to come down and collaborate with us on a workshop. Again, not involved with the meeting, either before a meeting or off cycle, is one. And then the other is, we do have some older bylaws for the commission, for the board, that were pulled together that probably need a revamp. Shouldn't take much time, but since we haven't had a refresh on those for a long time, and again, our new moderator had helped pull out an older working copy, it should be at the top of the list as well. And we can do both, but I think with what we have, we might, again, thinking Q1's already short and we're in February, we might want to pick one of those. So.
I think bylaws would have to be ratified by the council too if we change them. Because I know the original bylaws needed to be ratified by the council. So if we make amendments, we'd have to propose it and then have it ratified and then adopt it.
Okay.
So Q1 might not be the best time because they're
doing other things.
they're seating new members and
Okay.
then all that jazz. So maybe Q2 would be a better spot for that.
Noted. Other commentary?
I have just a suggestion for not so much Q1, but just outreach in general. I think that the public, I know that the public is unaware or uneducated on what the process is in giving property to conservation to the commission, the tax advantages and everything that goes along with it. I think people have a kind of a misconception on that process. So I think some outreach, because property is going to become less and less available to us as Derry gets, continue to gets developed. I think we almost need to go out and educate the public on some of the benefits that they may not know exist, and then clarify, the process to people that think it's different than what it really is.
I mean, I'm putting another note, so out of Q1, thinking of other things that we need to do and opening that conversation. I know we've got some resources we can probably tap into through New Hampshire ACC. They typically present at the conference, but maybe we
Yeah.
could ask those
Yeah,
same
if we asked them
resources and
special, they
presenters
maybe could do
to do
that.
something locally in town and kind of have an open education session,
Might be able to do something at the Derry Library, you know?
possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I think just to kind of get the whole kind of community together and to clarify what exactly the process is, you know, it may foster some additional land prospects in the future if people know what the advantages are. And the only other thing I have is I really, and I've been at this a bit, and I think we talk about trail maintenance every meeting for the past 15 years that I've been here, and I think we should seriously consider, we have funds available to us that we can use for trail maintenance. I think we should start considering hiring some trail maintenance people if we want, because I feel like that list never really ever gets accomplished to any level. I know we've done it together, but I don't think it would be extraordinary to consider hiring some of the trail maintenance out and using some of our admin dollars that we have appropriated to us every year by the council to take care of that. Whittle down that list.
We do get an offer, I want to say like once a year from
AmeriCorps.
an organization, but I believe the cost that were presented last year for, I think, a couple days worth of work was quite extravagant. But I think also it's because they travel, we have to put them up. There's fees with putting them up while they're here and feeding them.
There's
and all that.
usually two different crews, one that actually stays at the property for like 5 days. They'll tent right on the site and do the work. The other one, they come out of, usually it's out of Bear Brook.
Okay.
There's a resident group there that runs around and does like 2-day projects or something, so.
Can you provide contacts for those to start the conversation early on that?
I'm thinking something, just sorry to interrupt, but I'm thinking of something much more simple to a point of just hiring a local contract. We have 1 million landscapers in town, just hiring a local landscaper to come in and do it, you know, rather than, I mean, I understand that that's a process, something we could do maybe as a planning process. I'm talking about making a phone call, getting a price, having someone come in and do the work and paying the people.
Do we want to get a good idea, though, of what they're exactly going to do before they go out and do it, just to make sure that,
Yeah, I think that will require an RFP, right?
If it's under a certain amount, I'm not sure if it does, if it's under a certain amount. And we may even, because there are so many landscapers in town, you know, we could even get some prices that might not be the typical prices that, you know, a commercial operation would pay, because it's, you know, it's a benefit to the town. I'd be happy to champion that project if you'd like, Jim.
Yeah,
I'll look into the RFP process.
okay.
We want to be sure that they have experience doing trail work, because people's perception about trail work.
As much experience as me and Jim have. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, or the level of our expectation versus theirs.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
we
we've had
know
loggers come in to do work on a trail, and their expectation is that it's a forest management road, while our expectation is it's a walk in the park. And,
right, and then some things
I
might
don't think it's too
happen
hard to
that we
clearly
weren't
define what we
expecting
want
or
done. We
wanting,
just clearly
you
define
know,
what we want
so
done and
I think
what we don't want
have to
done.
be careful.
Well, noted. Let's dig into the details as we gain information on that.
Have you worked any more on getting permission for us as members to do some of the minor work out on the trails?
Yeah, I mean, we have equipment, we've expensed out a chainsaw, and we've done, as long as we're wearing PPE gear, protective gear, and we're safe, right? We've experienced with equipment. We've done some work on a couple of properties already.
Okay. I thought
Cutting.
before we were told we couldn't, and using like a brush saw or the chainsaws and stuff like that.
Yes,
is-
but we had conversations about safety, made sure we had protective equipment,
Okay.
and
All right.
we've done some cutting on properties, removed some fallen trees and things like that.
What about power equipment?
Like
Like,
we're sitting in the equipment?
not quite, it's a walk behind, but it'll clear a 36-inch path. It's a rotary flail.
Yeah,
It'll just go through everything that you push it.
Yeah, I think as long as we are following the same protocols with safety equipment and things like that. Again, and then we would discuss that action plan publicly, right? So we'd know what was happening on parcels and, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Related to that, I think we talked last year about refreshing our list of trail stewards and perhaps reinvigorating them to get more involved in at least, maybe not trail maintenance, but trail monitoring. I seem to remember that being on last year's list. I don't know if that's appropriate for the first quarter, given the weather situation and the amount of time left, but at least in my past town, we had a very active community trail stewards that were very helpful. We didn't have to do all the work.
Well, we did that defined work, and I think as we hit spring, you're probably right, we can make a push with the Nutfield News and other groups to kind of promote what we've got drafted and kind of have an open call, and maybe even a working session where we make an announcement that we're looking for stewards for properties, and then kind of get on a property in one day and kind of set it off. So I don't want to fully build out each quarter specifically until we can get the check marks done for Q1, but I think Q2 is probably a good spot for that.
I only brought it up because we were talking about a very related
for sure.
topic.
For sure. Other desires?
Is this above and beyond Q1?
Yeah, we're just going to build a list of some ideas for the remainder of the year, but
Okay.
yes.
I think we need to get the Doolittle property. We have the survey. We need to get the involvement of Rockingham County again. That got cut short last year because of conditions, let's just say. But they are, I think they are willing to help us out, and we have what we need to go forward. So if we do that in Q2, Q3, this is the removal of an invasive species.
I think that's probably a full contract in Q2 and then spraying as allowed on that one, which I think would be fall, but we'd have to have it contracted and planned. I think that's
Right.
what you're saying. So that should be earlier rather than later.
The first thing is to escort them and,
Yeah.
on the walk, and that's what failed to happen last fall.
Yeah, well, I think the day that it was going to get walked too, it was pouring and it was not advantageous to get a full run through over there. Okay.
So that's one. The other thing is, I believe this is the year that we mow Broadview.
It is.
Okay.
It is, and because of the schedule, that needs to be, we need to book that as a priority with Dave so that he's aware and we get on the calendar for when we would like him to mow based on the birding population.
Right.
I'm going to add one more to Q1, a defined mowing plan to Parks Department for Broadview.
Okay.
I'm adding one, so there's going to be, sorry, I said 4, but I'm going to do 5.
To the Parks Department?
Yeah, they mow.
Yeah.
They deploy some of the mowing on some of the parcels, so they're the ones that mow Broadview. And I think we want to present to them a defined map, as we've talked about in the past, where there was some extra paths. I think we're going to pull those back
Okay.
and go back to kind of a little bit more of a
perimeter and one cut through.
perimeter, perimeter and a single cut preferred instead of the double cut,
Yeah.
and
And make them aware when the grassland birds nest. so that
Does
they
the
know.
shepherd mowing fall into that same discussion, or no?
so the shepherd mowing plan, because we've planted milkweed there, we've changed the mowing. We have a certain time of year, it's in late August.
I think,
I think it's late August, until the monarchs have moved on. Let me go back and check the notes on that. But we had talked to an abutter, and they wanted a little bit of a break between their property and Shepherd from the overgrowth, so we were doing one mow path or 2 mow paths down that fence line. But there's,
Just so DPW knows,
Yeah.
not to mow it is basically what I'm saying.
yes,
Again, I should say, not to mow it again.
they've been pretty good about that. Again, that's Mr. Fowler. We typically communicate as it gets later in the season, when that cutoff's going to be. So short list for Q1. But I think a manageable list and a much-needed list to kind of get a couple of short, quick wins here and get some stuff off the plate. And then reassess in Q2.
His gardens fall in a Q1, don't they? The garden fall in a Q1? There's probably action items on that.
No, I think the last conversation we had on Broadview was, in the December meeting, Will, you were following up on making sure all the gardeners were out of there, which I think they were, because I've driven by there and it looks clean.
I haven't been by in quite a while, but the last time I was there was just one chicken wire fence left,
Yep.
so.
But prep for garden starts
Is that Q1 or 2?
Q2,
You do,
Q3.
is it March for signups or April?
No, April 1st
April?
for signups and tilling in mid-May and opening shortly after that.
So that'll be Q2 action items then?
Yeah, Q2 will need to book the gentleman who tills. Okay. And I've got to converse with the Derry Police Department too. I think they were interested at the end of last year doing more of those walks, walk with a cop. But we had done it on Doolittle and Broadview, and I think there was some appetite from others that were going on those walks to see other parcels with more diverse terrain and a little bit more of a challenge. And so I think those would be flagship stuff. They're during the week, but we would definitely need some stewardship for some of those walks. And I mean, I can do some, but I'd like others' engagement if they're around, or even, I don't know if you're around during the week, you travel too, but I don't know if they've done anything around Ballard with the public.
That's a neat,
On the state property or?
Well, they've taken them everywhere. They've done walks
Okay.
on the rail trail, they've done walks at the Frost Farm, they've done walks on some of our properties.
I haven't seen them, but they may be there when I'm not there, so.
Yeah, but they're looking for stewards if we do more of these nature-type walks to get a little bit more of the story of the property and what, it kind of feels more of just, we're going to walk on
Right.
downtown Derry and come back, you know?
Right.
Which is part of that community outreach, right? It's a function of it, so. And they get great attendance, to be honest with you. The two that I did
Really? How many
were very
people
well
came?
attended,
yeah.
so. The other things that have to get wrapped up in Q2 and Q3 and beyond, I mean, we need to wrap up with Charlie for the management plan for Weber. If we're going to do anything there, we need to contract that out, so that's got to be on the list. And the map works obviously on the list when working with Jim and the Hampstead Commission. The other thing I'll entertain, Rick, is, you know, we probably want to be proactive and reach out to the other commissions to see if we can get another joint meeting together.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And I think, you know, one of the topics we talked about at the last joint session was bringing together a topic that we all could work on. And I'd love to see this trail maintenance piece be the first focus, because Hampstead utilizes their kind of mountain bike group.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about safety and liability, but these guys do a really good job.
They do a
especially if
fantastic job,
They have
yeah.
access to some of these parcels to ride, and we have plenty of parcels out there that could be ridden by mountain bike without, you know, too much difficulty. Probably not what they prefer to ride, but if there's stuff out there for them to ride and they're interested in the trail maintenance aspect of it, they do a great job. They've created bridges. They've done a lot for Hampstead. So if we could do a session just on that.
We've got like three new bike shops in town too, recent.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, we got all these new bike
Yeah,
shops.
that
They're all running-
e-bike
they're all
thing.
E-bike.
Yeah.
selling those fat tire bikes. They're actually designed for that kind of terrain. Yeah, it's a good idea. Great idea.
All right.
And the rail trails folks are active in town, so we should probably use them more.
So what do we think about that? Last time we had a session as a joint meeting of other commissions. It came through, and myself, Eileen, and Will were there.
Yep.
What if we propose hosting that here?
I think that would be great.
Yeah,
So we'll ask others to come down and do a workshop, probably not in this room, but, oh, maybe we could do it. We could do some tables.
There are
we could do it in
more-
there.
Yeah, we could do it in here. Sure. And we'll ask Hampstead to bring some of their trail folks in.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, I think
All
that'd be
right.
great.
So who wants to be my accountability partner to make sure I get that email sent out this evening, tomorrow morning, Grace Reisdorf? Remind me.
The enforcer. I like that title.
Not to put anybody on the spot, but Mr. Preventure, I know in the past we've talked about video content for television. is there a, thinking of the spring schedule and getting out to events and finding summertime, would any period be advantageous to do one of those kind of trail videos? I know we did a look at Cole Marsh, but there were some trees down. Those have since been cut, but
How about Gulf Road Storm Trail, like in the spring? There's all kinds of wildflowers out there, you know, and especially lady slippers, you're going to be able to find those easily along the trail, and it's a pretty trail. It would lend itself, and with the water and everything, it would lend itself to a nice video.
Do we think the late spring would be most advantageous for the most amount of species and diversity that would be sort of in a more
When
spectacular?
you say late spring, how late? Like May?
I
or-
think what the best approach would be, there's two main factors. I think if perhaps you told me when the properties would be at their most visually appealing, if you will, both in terms of the fauna and the wildlife out there. And as long as we have really advanced notice to the tune of 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere in there, I
Yeah.
think we can work it in. We could take half a day, maybe in the afternoon, later part of the day, catch some of that low angle sun, perhaps not the magic hour at sunset, but maybe just before, capture some of that. And the other, it may be advantageous if at least a contingent of your folks went out prior and just kind of either plotted out or made a quick note of the things you'd want us to capture for any given property.
Right, that's a good idea. I think,
Yeah, and that way we could make sure we could meet those expectations.
That way, when you go out, it's nice and efficient, and you can hit all the high
And it-
spots.
Yeah, and I think it would serve as a last looks, we call it, so you can make sure the trails were prepped and
Yeah.
the way you want them to be presented.
So I think we do have a binder with a breakdown of a lot of our properties and easements, so there's enough content there for narration. So even if we had just rolling footage with some stills, we could combine it and still tell a story.
Absolutely.
But why don't we'll put it on the docket for later in the year.
Sure, sounds great. And there's different, maybe now's the time to be thinking of how you'd want to present it. So there's options. Some of them require a little more effort, but not as much as you would think. So you could do a narration with the visuals over, or we could meet one of you out there or a couple, and like we did with the community garden.
Yeah.
Just kind of do a presentation there. And it could be on camera or off. It doesn't need to be on
Would there be
camera for
any
folks that are.
interest in sort of showing the history of these properties as they've changed over time? Because one thing I was looking at the other day, I'm just always taking pictures all the time, right? So I have this drive that has a terabyte of photos on it. And in the different folders I was looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, look at this, of Broadview, like from, I don't know, probably more than 10 years ago, And I'm like, wow, I have these at Gulf Road. Like, I have like a lot of old, conservation land photos that you might be able to tell the story of the property over time. Like, this is what it used to look like the storybook tree will out at Broadview, and how it looks now, maybe, I don't know, it's just an idea.
So we can never have too much content. So I
Okay.
think I think it comes down to the planning part, and I'm certainly happy to meet
Yeah.
with you or a committee or what you like to set up, and it comes down to just a simple outline, but within that simple outline, that framework, we can get as detailed as we'd like. And one other thing I just will add that I think there's been talk, certainly by myself, and I think you all have mentioned it in the past, where some interactive aspects to the properties, so using QR codes and such. If we think of this content as sort of dual purpose, and in the short term, we could get some content out there, but that content can then be broken up perhaps and used, so if you walk up to a portion on a property, zap it, you've got some video, some text, some things to really bring people into the setting and give them a sense of
We got some work to do on that throughout the year.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
I love it.
I know.
I don't want
But
to
we
jump the
want
shark. so
achievable goals.
Maybe, achievable goals
Right.
first.
Right.
Achievable.
But one step at a time. But if we just think of like maybe smaller chapters of a piece, a 30-minute piece that could go out in the short term, but then
Right.
take those pieces and
Right.
that will actually create less work for your future goal. of
Right, right,
making
right.
an
Love it.
interactive trail. So,
Okay.
just
And eventually you have.
Always
the nice
available to help.
history
Before we start trying to fund a Bugatti, I don't have much else this evening.
You want to run through your list? Your Q1 list, just so we all have it?
Just focused on Q1,
Yep.
not the rep master list. Broadview signage update, Shepherd Trail work, website with Mr. Boonstra, Hinge with the town, action plan. We took off the amendment to our bylaws.
In favor of the workshop with TRC?
Yeah, the TRC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you. And then we need to get a defined map for mowing and review Shepherd one time with Parks and Recreation.
So is TRC workshop on your Q1 or no?
It's in Q1, but I've got to coordinate that.
Okay.
So, but it's in there. And those are the 5. And Q2's growing, so
I have 7.
I know.
Clearly I did something
Yeah.
wrong.
What about the sign over on Drew Road? That's leaning back. It definitely needs some help and stuff.
for Weber Forest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Kinda.
Yeah, yep.
I stopped like
Walmart.
2 years ago, propped it up and shoved rocks in to try to make it straight, but it's leaning over again. It
I
needs-
got Cole Marsh to stand up straight. That one got fixed.
There's just nothing on it.
All right.
Doesn't
Listen, I'm
say
gonna put
anything.
I'm gonna put a 5A, but I'm gonna take that one off the Q1 lift. But I'll put a little A underneath the 5 as like an accessory. We'll take a look at it. Any other topics to be discussed tonight?
Just a heads up, I've been visiting Daniel Road pretty regularly for that project that big subdivision up there. Yeah, just I put on my Concom tag and show my face every once in a while. Just to keep, it's a big project, giant project, a lot going on there.
Big project for
Yeah,
sure.
A lot of mitigation measures and all
What's
that
it
jazz.
looking like, Rick? Do you think it's going well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a clean job site. You know, they have all the mitigation measures in place. There's a couple of silt fence issues that if I see something, I'll bring it up to whoever's there, and they get taken care of, so. But, yeah, it's a big project, big project. But it's going well, looks good.
Yeah, okay.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Rick motions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Bob Spurl seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, folks, 7:38. Have a great evening.